The universe will answer any question you ask. That's the nature of it. Most people ask disempowering questions. We live in a multidimensional universe, okay? So as long as you're asking that question, you're at the lower rung of the dimensions. There's a whole nother world. And so when you begin to ask an empowering question, you're actually lifted out of that world. You're not in that world anymore. You're in another world instantly. I'm up here now.
So we've been talking a lot about longevity on the show lately, and I'm a big proponent of listening to people who actually have longevity. You know, it just would kind of make sense. But you've been teaching for over 40 years now and being a leader for over 40 years. So this question, I want to know this personally because, you know, just spending time with you and just seeing how invested you are in your health and nutrition. Why do you feel nutrition is such a big part of personal development?
The body temple. First of all, I'm honored to be here with you.
It's my honor.
This is fantastic. The body temple, you know, is a carrier of energy, and we have the capacity to hold infinite amounts of energy flowing through us. But the temple, just like a light bulb, has to be able to hold that wattage. Just as there's certain light bulbs that can, like, they're 10 watts, they're 50 watts, they're 100 watts. The body temple, when there's proper nutrition, proper exercise, proper thought, proper hydration, etc., you're able to hold more of the energy that the cosmos is trying to flow through you. So many people develop a lot of stagnation. You know, they're eating incorrectly, they're eating dead food, they're eating food that's not conducive to their health. So that, you know, it creates the condition of disease and disharmony. So nutrition, you know, if we actually think that this is a temple of the living God, you know, you're going to treat it properly. It's not just a bag of bones, as they used to call it back in the day. You know, it has an intelligence of its own. It listens to what you're thinking. You know, the cells hear your emotions and your feelings and your thoughts and replicate that in chemistry, you know, toxic or tonic, depending on what mood you're in. And food does the same thing. And so if a person is wise, then they'll be very mindful of what they put in the temple, you know, as well as what comes out of their mouth, you know, because obviously the tongue can be a blessing or a curse, you know, so it's what goes in and what comes out. So, you know, I've developed a practice over the years of being mindful about what goes in the temple, and it's been adjustments along the way, and being mindful of what comes out of my mouth. I only want to say what I want to experience, you know. So I'm not going to curse somebody, you know, because I don't want to be cursed. You know, I'm not going to put anybody down because I don't want the universal law to bring me down. So it's an affirmation coming out, and it's good food with good, you know, nutrition and energy going in, and therefore, based on karmic propensities and so much other, you know, your body temple, you know, we're gifted to live a long time. Yeah, most people check out way before they're supposed to physically.
Check out early.
They say, you know, they check out. Like,
Let me get an early checkout,
yeah,
please.
You know, they think, you know, 75 years is a long time, but the body is coded to go 100, 110, 125, you know. So that also begins in thought. You have to actually think like that. And you actually have to have an underlying purpose for your existence, you know, not just fitting into the status quo, accumulating a bunch of stuff until you die. You know, there has to be something larger than that to keep you around. Yeah.
You're the first person that I heard that from, that truth about being able to handle that type of energy. You know, a lot of people go to events and they learn things and they want to transform their life. But I think a lot of people have wondered and questioned this, like, why don't people change? They get the information, they get the experience, but what I'm hearing is sometimes we can't hold that energy. We might have to, even if we hear something powerful and we want to go and take action, we got to lay down and take a nap. We just can't even contain that energy.
It's absolutely true. You know, I was thinking about that on two levels. I was watching, like, people who get famous and they're not plugged in. to the energy within themselves, and then fame takes them down. It overloads their circuits. They become addicted to the energy that's feeding them temporarily, but they can't really hold it themselves. And then they find that they actually need an audience to give them that energy. So they become addicted to that, you see. And then the average person, as you say, they get a lot of information, but there's information that informs and there's information that transforms. And so a lot of people are accumulating information, but it's not transformative. They're not digesting it. They don't have a practice that's actually assimilating the information until it becomes real knowledge, and so they may go get high for the weekend at a seminar, but then by Monday, they've reverted back to their old patterns because they don't have an underlying practice and a higher purpose to keep them going. And oftentimes, they're not really going to change. They're going to get something. If I get that, I'm going to be happy. But real transformation is about an inner dynamic of change within yourself, which is not an easy thing to do. It's simple, but it's not easy. But if you're willing, you can participate in your own transformation. And so there are people that just want to accumulate information, and they become very academic about things. There's nothing wrong with academics at all, but they'll have a lot of information, but it's not embodied yet.
You call that a human filing cabinet, right?
A human filing cabinet. But you see a lot of people that they're in universities, the ivory towers. They can teach it. I mean, I've seen this a lot of times with the business classes. People are teaching all things about business. They never had a business. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely.
I remember a professor at USC one time said, this people staying at home and watching videos, that's going to die out. He was in the business.
Oh, wow.
When Blockbuster was getting big and then it was transforming into what we have today, Netflix and all these different things. He said, this is a fad. People aren't going to stay home. They're going to want to go out all the time. He had no idea about what was emerging. He had all this information.
Right.
But wasn't tapped into what was happening.
Yeah, he thought people would still enjoy the hunt
of
going to Blockbuster,
right,
and searching for your video,
right.
Yeah. So, it's so interesting because you just said something really profound. It's not just what is coming in, which is what we're making our body out of, what we're making our brain out of, but it's what's coming out as well. And so, for both of those things to be in sync.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned a universal law, basically speaking things into reality.
Right.
Isn't just speaking something, that's a creation in and of itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's energy. When we hear the different scriptures say things like, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. It's speaking, I call it a cellular logos. It's the logos, it's an energy, it's a vibration that then becomes flesh. It condenses itself into perception. It condenses itself into thoughts. It condenses itself into experience. So oftentimes people are just casual with their conversations, not understanding that they're actually setting something in motion. Oh, my poor back. Oh, I don't like this person. Gossiping, talking bad about themselves even. They're setting things in motion. So I like to say, I don't want to say what I don't want to experience. I want to say what I want to experience. So I'll say it's a magnificent day. Life is good. There's a way out of this. There's an answer to this issue. There's a solution somewhere. I'm going to stay there until that becomes flesh. But it's practice because individuals, particularly now, people have normalized negativity. They've made fear popular. You know what I mean? And that's become, you're an oddball if in fact you're operating at a different level. They think you're just weird, And so you'd rather be an oddball in a crazy world than to be normal in a crazy world, Yeah, but I always caution people, and I'll check people with me and say, well, wait a minute. There's unlimited good here. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not here. There's unlimited possibilities. Don't block yourself in to what your mind thinks is possible. This is the only way that some good is going to come into your life. It becomes that's blocked. No good's going to come in. Infinite ways. Miracles can happen. Your mind will call them miracles, but they're just demonstrations of truth. So why block yourself in? Just stop it. Just say you don't know how it's going to happen right now. You're available to it. Let's see what happens. Let the universal presence, through its laws, shock and surprise you.
Normalize that.
Right, normalize that. Yeah.
I'm literally just still ruminating on normalizing fear.
Yeah.
It's a system within us that, of course, has provided us value over our evolution for sure. But today, to live in that state habitually, we're not wired up to live that way. We're not designed to be that way. And so even with so many folks having their aspirations, goals, everybody listening right now has incredible potential to achieve things beyond our wildest imagination.
Right.
But I think so often, and fear being a big driving force of this, we get caught up in what if instead of what is. Mm-hmm. So how do we go from what if to what is?
Yeah. Well, what if can also be used positively. What if everything works out? Cool. What if I have more than enough money? You can go there and you'll get to what is. Because what is that right here and right now, all of the power, all of the presence, all of the intelligence, all of the love, all that is already here. It's already here. It may be latent within us, but it is here. And as we begin to think like that and contemplate that truth, our frequency rises. We begin to hang in that awareness. Now, what has happened is that individuals have normalized fear, which means their attention is more on what they don't want than on what they do want. So what people don't understand is that anything you don't want, you're having a relationship with it. It's existing, and you're not wanting it. And so people walk out, I don't want to be broke. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to correct the Rona. I don't want to catch the coronavirus. I don't want to. So in that moment of I don't want to, the law doesn't distinguish between what you want and don't want. It only knows what you're interested in. And so if you're interested in not getting robbed, not getting poor, not catching a disease, you're in relationship with that. And then that's what you manifest. Now, you may not manifest that exactly, but your body temple doesn't know the difference. You'll still produce toxic chemicals, immediate toxic chemicals, create the condition for disease. So I teach people, you get what you want or don't want. The law doesn't differentiate. So stop placing all of your attention on what you don't want to happen and begin to place your attention on what you like to see unfold in your life. Begin to describe it. The law says, you don't describe what you see what you describe. So if you're living in an accurate description of possibility, then the law starts to bring that into manifestation, you see. And now most people should be taught this in elementary school. Yeah. But instead, we have the nefarious forces that keep people in fear, and keeping them all pumped up about what to be afraid of next. Oh, the Russians. Oh, Corona. Oh, aliens. Oh, whatever it is. People are nervous. We're not meant to be like that. We are an absolute reflection of the entire cosmos. What do we have to be afraid of? There's no such thing as death, you see. So there's no loss in the cosmic scheme, but everybody they've allowed themselves to shrink into being a little old something. And then they normalize their fear. Shakespeare said a coward dies 1,000 deaths. Constantly, even before anything even happens. They've rehearsed all the negative stuff. It's not funny, but it is kind of a comedy, what human beings do to themselves.
I love this so much. This is what I wanted to ask you about this today. I wanted to ask you about the comedy of life.
Yeah.
And the sickness that we can get caught in of taking life too seriously, of taking everything so seriously.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, there's nothing serious going on in the universe. Nothing at all. The universe is a big explosion of joy and ecstasy and bliss. Okay, so if you got to stretch your perception a little bit. There's no such thing as death. And there's no such thing as loss. Okay, yeah, you're going to exit a body temple when it's your time. In the world of the phenomena, things come, things go. We don't deny that. But there's nothing serious happening. So since there's nothing serious happening, what is happening? What's happening is the universal presence and all of its creation is continuing to expand, to reveal the infinite nature. So that means you get to play. It's our time to play in this, Now we create seriousness, NBA championships going on. We create a serious time crunch. Mm-hmm. Time doesn't really exist, but we play with it. Okay, we only have this many minutes, and when the end of the game, whoever has more points, they win. The other person loses. Oh, that's serious. It's not really. It's called a consistent irrelevancy. You know what I mean? It's irrelevant. Yeah. It's consistent. It's fun. At the end of the day,
it's a social agreement. We all we just made that up.
We just make it up.
It's all made up.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the idea is that we are here as joy babies. We to tap into that joy. And the thing about it is, when you move into conscious joy and gratitude, now you may have heard this from your mom, and it probably spans all cultures. Our parents saying to us, if you don't stop crying, I'm gonna give you something to cry about. That's pretty common, right?
I've gotten that one.
Yeah. The universe says, if you don't stop being grateful, I'm gonna give you something to be grateful for. It's the same law.
I like that.
So as you lift your attention to being grateful for anything, for the next breath you're about to take, the next beating of your heart, then the universe will find something that matches that field. And it will shock you because it will come outside of your present perception. We have a perception of life, and then in this perception, we want this, we want that to be happy, we want that to be happy. We don't know it's all of this exists. But if you go into the feeling of gratitude, then all of this opens up for you. And this is when you're surprised by things. You meet the person you were supposed to meet. You didn't even know that person existed, but that's the person you needed to meet to go to the next level of your unfoldment. Opportunities show up, possibilities show up that you didn't even know existed, just because you're in the feeling tone of possibility. You see, we're not taking it seriously. What I say is, we don't take things seriously, we take things reverentially. I have a reverence for life. I have a reverence for that plant. I have a reverence for the trees. I have a reverence for the ground. I have a reverence for Mother Nature. I have a reverence for human beings. I revere it, but it's not serious. It's a reverence, So sometimes in religiosity, they will mistake the two. Think reverence means serious. No, it means my heart is open. I really appreciate the flowing of the rivers. I appreciate all sentient beings. I have a deep reverence. And that's spiritual. That's open-hearted. Yeah.
The reason I want to ask you about that is because I think it's a lot easier. I know it's a lot easier today to get wrapped up in the seriousness of, all of the attention, for example, that we might get with social media.
Right.
There was a little meme going around that, essentially a meme was like, the internet is crazy. You're never supposed to know this many people. It's just like, we're not supposed to know 5,000 people. That's never existed before. And caring about the opinions of 5,000 people.
Right.
And so I think carrying that level of, everything is so serious. If somebody that is 20 times removed, 200 times removed from actually knowing you says something negative about you, and it can just take you down.
Right.
And so carrying a little bit more of a light heart with things, to even not take ourselves so seriously, for example.
Right.
I think it could be a helpful tool today.
Right. Yeah. We don't take ourselves seriously. We love and appreciate ourselves. And we learn not to be overly concerned about what other people are thinking about us. And then we learn not to be overly concerned about our own thoughts about ourselves, because we don't know where they came from. It may have come from our parents, it may have come from people in high school that said something crazy about you. All that stuff may be going around. We learn to be conscious of what the presence is saying about us. I've always loved this scripture. I'm not a religious man, but I'm a spiritual man. So when I look at scripture, I see the spiritual essence, not the literal, And I've always loved the scripture that says, God's eyes are too pure to behold inequity. That this presence doesn't see anything but itself. It only sees potential. It doesn't see anything negative, because if it did, that meant that negative would last forever, because God only sees the eternal. So God's eyes are too pure to behold inequity. And it goes on to talk about the fact that I know the thoughts that I think towards you, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. So on a spiritual level, the presence saying, I know what I think about you, thoughts of peace. I know your potential. I know what's going to unfold already. So we want to think like that, And then, of course, we're not allowing the ego to steal it, like I'm better than someone, I'm superior than someone, not any of that. Just as a unique expression of infinite potential, I'm here to reflect and to reveal the cosmos in a way that only I can. And nobody else can do it like me. And I can't do it like anybody else. I'm incomparable. We're all incomparable, you see. And it frees us. So you're able to go out in the world, and the two imposters, criticism and praise. Those are two imposters. You're able to sidestep them. You're not running towards praise, and you're not running from criticism. Mm-hmm. You just look at them, see what you can glean from them. Oh, this person doesn't like me. Okay, is there anything for me to learn there? Any place for me to grow? Oh, there's some praise. I don't want to get addicted to that. I can take it as feedback. Oh, I'm doing something right. That's cool. I love it. Beautiful. But I'm not living to run towards one and run away from the other. It's just feedback. Yeah. I'm actually going in and getting my cues from my interior awareness. Yeah.
That's powerful. That's also, I think it's really challenging for a lot of folks today.
Sure.
And
you just said it.
Yeah.
People are on this internet, they're on this social media, and they actually think that somebody out there is saying whatever they're saying is important.
And more than ever today, I think it was you, WMDs, right? Weapons of mass distraction.
Right.
And all of this stuff going on is stealing our attention and making us kind of outsource things to the external world a lot more. I think, a lot of folks they're so deeply tied into it that it makes it difficult to go within. So what I want to ask you is, how do we turn that around? How do we get closer to what's most real about us?
Yeah. That question right there, if an individual would ask that question of themselves, how do I get closer to what's real within me? Their mind will start to turn inward rather than outward. And they'll start to catch insights and revelations and wisdom and guidance because they're interested in it. Yeah. Rather than, how can I make that person like me? How can I get closer to me? And then we'll be guided. But of course, there's age-old practices of concentration, contemplation, meditation. These are all ways of watching our own thoughts, our own moods, and then something sweet and wonderful happens. You'll have an insight that, wow, all this stuff passing through, that's not even me. That's just stuff passing through. Who's me? Oh, I'm the one watching. And the moment you realize you're not the stuff passing through, that's a step in enlightenment. That's like, I'm not identified with all of that stuff passing through. I teach people, we have the ocean, and then you have the content of the ocean. There's seaweed, there's plankton, there's fish, there's boats, there's human pollution. All that's in the ocean, but it's not the ocean. We are consciousness, and then this stuff in us. Thoughts, opinions, points of view, interpretation of past experiences. Until the person has some kind of reflection, they actually think That content is who they are. Well, my grandmother was, so I am, and this runs in my family, and that's just content. It's not who you are. But once you realize that you're not that content, you're waking up from the intoxicated sleep, and now you're being sourced from within rather than from without.
I love that. It's that first step, and I remember it so clearly. I'll never forget it. It's basically 2 lives that I've had.
That's right.
Was my mother-in-law, that first meditation that she taught me, and I realized I had never really had a conscious thought my entire life. I was thinking,
right,
but I was aware suddenly that there's this thinking going on. And my life afterwards, it was a couple of years of kind of reintegrating back into what this life is,
right,
with this, new perception. And it was so beautiful, but it was also very challenging,
yeah,
as well. And I think that's part of it too, is I think that folks are chasing happiness. They're chasing enlightenment so that they don't have to go through stuff, and not really understanding that sometimes this is going to require work. It's going to require some challenge and obstacles. What part does all that play in the story?
That's the small print. Okay. So what happens is, what you've described, we have our sub-personalities, our personality, all the content that it's generating that we've identified with. Every aspect of our personality we've gotten from time and experience. People you associate with, things that have happened, you develop coping mechanisms, defense mechanisms, all kinds of things to survive. Yeah. Okay? So what happens is, when you start to contemplate reality, meditate, pray, whatever your mode is, what happens is those roles begin to melt. And as they melt, that's the challenge. It's like, I don't know who I am. I'm confused. That's called the crucifixion. That personality self that you've identified with, this is who I am, it's being crucified. And then there's a slow death. And then there's an emergence, expanded consciousness. That's called the resurrection or the rebirth. And then you're operating at higher levels of freedom. You're being free from the content flowing through. And then you get to a point of there's a fork in the road, so to speak, where there's freedom and ecstasy and pleasure. And many people opt for pleasure rather than bliss. Now, if you go to bliss and freedom, you get pleasure. But if you go to pleasure, you may not get to bliss. Mm-hmm. You know how they talk about he or she is a pleasure seeker. That becomes another level of addiction. I know I'm probably talking a lot here, but the idea is, it is challenging, because when your identity starts to break up and you don't know what you believe anymore, that's a good stage in the development. Your whole inner world is like, I used to know exactly who I was. This was my personality. This is how I handled life. Now I'm changing. And then there's a greater expansion of awareness. This is all part of the practice of every spiritual path. Will say it in a different way. The breakdown for the breakthrough. Yeah.
Thank you for that, because I know a lot of people experience that. They might be in it right now.
Right.
And just to have that permission to know that it's a part of the process and that you are working towards something. I want to ask you this, because you're one of the people who has really identified and expanded the awareness of different universal laws, like the law of attraction. Mm-hmm. And there's always this set of beliefs that make it hard to accept that that's going on, mm-hmm. even though it might be the only thing going on. That, what about negative things that happen? Mm-hmm. How is it that I attracted this quote bad thing into my life? How can you speak to that?
I'll tell you. Yeah, I will, and I'll tell you a story. I was getting ready to go on the Oprah Winfrey show again, and she comes into the green room, and she says, "I'm getting these letters from people wanting to know, why do these bad things are happening to good people, and did they attract it? Because we were speaking about the secret and law of attraction." And she said, "Michael, I'm going to ask you that question." And then she said, "Listen, you don't have time to teach a class, because you have to give it in sound bites." And then she left the room. Wow. And I'm thinking, I'm going to talk about this And it's sound bites. So I sat and meditated because we're about to go live, and so what it's called, the windows of manifestation came into my awareness. Just went whoop. So we go out and we're talking, and then Ms. Winfrey says, "Michael, I'm getting all these letters. Why is it that bad things happen to good people? Are they attracting it? What's going on?" And I said, "Well, there's these 4 windows of manifestation. The first window is you basically experience your thinking. Whatever your thinking is, it will transmute itself into an experience. It's window number 1. Window number 2 is called a lesson. Let's say you have a goal, a vision. You're putting something out there. I want my life to be this particular way. But you don't have the energy to hold that life yet. So the universe will give you a lesson that you may not like. But at the end of the day, you say, you know what? If that hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Mm-hmm. While you were growing through it, it's like, why is this happening? I don't want this going on. Why did this occur? But you asked for something larger. So the universe is making you a larger container. But it has to process you first. That coal has to become diamond, And so it's intense. When you come out of it, you realize you're different. Now you're vibrationally worthy to have the life that you were envisioning. That's lesson. Window number 3 is called a blessing, meaning there are actual individuals who have come to the planet who have taken on certain things in order to raise the vibration of compassion on the planet. Very quick story. There was a woman who was clairaudient, and she would work with people. There was a particular woman who was very wealthy, but her heart was closed. She didn't have any friends, no love in her life. She was with her lover. She ended up having a baby. And the baby, at this time, back in those days, it was called mental retardation. She loved this baby. And her heart opened. She became a different person based on having this child. Philanthropic, giving, generous. At the age of 11 or 12, the boy slipped into the pool and died. And so this lady named Helen Greaves comes on the scene, and she talks to the boy who had passed over. She had that kind of ability. Discovered he was a tremendous avatar, tremendous high state of consciousness, who had purposely taken on this incarnation to open up her heart because he had known her in other lifetimes. So what looked like, well, why is this boy born like this? And then why did he die? Oh my God, there's so much tragedy. He actually had taken on that incarnation to become a blessing to these people. Window number 3, that happens with large groups of people, Holocaust, slavery at times, different things that have occurred. Individuals or groups of people will sometimes take an incarnation to raise the whole level of humanity. So humanity would say that should never happen again. We need to have laws against child labor. We need to have laws against racism. We need to rise up. So sometimes we shouldn't judge by appearances because we don't know why a certain thing is happening in a person's life. It could be their thinking. It could be a lesson they're learning, or it could be that they're actually bringing a blessing. And the 4th window is the group consciousness. The first one is individual, how I'm thinking. The 4th one is, as long as there's a belief collectively in lack, scarcity, disease, limitation, as long as that's a collective belief, somebody's going to experience it, unless they're strong enough to transcend it. So that's what came through, those 4 windows of it. Of course, it doesn't explain everything, but it keeps people from judging by appearances, because we don't know what a person's growing through, whether they're confused or worried themselves to death, or worried themselves into a disease, or whether they're in the midst of a lesson. I remember a friend of mine who was an attorney that went through some very hard times. And when he came through it, he became a minister, actually. And he didn't give up his legal life, But while he was growing through it, it transformed his life. And he would say, man, I'm so glad that negative stuff happened to me. It was negative at the time, but it purified his soul, you know. Yeah.
That's powerful. I mean, when you said it, I immediately thought that the worst thing that ever happened to me, I'm so grateful for.
Yeah.
Like, it's really one of the best things that's ever happened to me. I wouldn't trade it. I mean, it's terrible, absolute. But also I realized that within that, I could have stayed. I could have stayed stuck in it.
That's right.
And I think that that's one of the challenges that we face today is when the thing is going on, it's not very fun. It's not an easy situation for us to be like, you know what, this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to me someday.
Right.
So it's being aware in those moments. And I think this goes back to having those tools.
Right.
So that we can process the information, so that we can have that meta perspective.
Right.
You know, when it's going on, you know, this is even a day-to-day context when something you don't like shows up, you know, just having that sense of presence that, you know, for me, like I said, I could have really got stuck in that. And also the environment would have given me permission.
Right.
You know, nobody necessarily expected more of me.
Right.
But there was something within me that said, just keep moving forward.
Right.
Keep moving forward.
Absolutely. When we're stuck in that loop, the mind wants to go to wishful thinking. I wish this wasn't happening. Yeah. But it is. I wish I wasn't where I am right now. But you are. And I wish I hadn't done whatever I did to set this in motion. But you did. So the mind would try to take you into wishful thinking. But if you can grab the mind instead and say, you know, one thing I'll teach people is to say, if this, whatever this thing is, were to last forever, what quality would I have to have peace of mind? What quality? And what happens is if you ask a question like that, your mind will start to go towards that quality, less towards the resistance of what's happening. And then that'll become a cauldron of transformation. And when it's over, you'll have more of that quality because that's what you are interested in. It's tough. I'm not saying it's an easy thing. Yeah. That's why we have coaches. That's why we have practitioners. That's why we have, you know, enlightened therapists that can coach a person through that, keep their attention high while they're going through the most dark period of times, you know.
Yeah.
I remember that this ring right here that I wear, this was made by a jeweler, gave it to me as a gift. I had done his wedding. 2 months later, he calls me from jail. And he says, Reverend Michael, I want you to pray for me for my wife. I'm going to have to do probably 5. I got caught going through Texas with a trunk full of marijuana before it was all legal and everything, and still not legal in Texas probably. But and I said, well, wait a minute. God doesn't really know those kind of prayers. God only knows qualities like freedom, love, joy. I said, let's try an experiment. I said, so I sent him a book. I said, I want you to read this book every day. I want you to read the 91st Psalm every day. I said, then I want you to write down what you're going to do with your life when you get out of jail. He said, man, I'm not going to get out for 5 years. I said, just write down what you're going to do when you get out of jail. What do you want your life to be about? You want to be a lifetime marijuana dealer? What do you want to do? He said, no, I want to be a jeweler. I've had this idea of doing jewelry, and I'm an artist. I said, okay, write it down. I said, now bless the judge, bless the prosecutor, bless your attorney, and stay out of the legality. That's their job. That's not your job. Your job is to see your life, how you want it to be, bless everybody, and hold this space. So he goes for the arraignment. Prosecutor is there. Prosecutor picks up his briefcase. The papers are lost. All of the evidence, all of his evidentiary processes, he doesn't know where it is. The judge is livid. And the judge has to set him free. But they have 30 days to refile. And anyway, they can't keep him. He flies to Hawaii with his wife. They never tried to get him again. So he ended up starting this one jewelry company. So he made me a number of rings that he's made me. He's got 2 companies in Hawaii. He's a great artist, great jeweler. You know, totally walked out of there free. I said, the presence, whatever name you want to call the presence, it only knows freedom. But you have to vibrationally match yourself to that.
Yeah.
So he was doing this drug deal to pay off his child support. Then he became aware that his life was full of abundance. It's a great possibility. He didn't need to do it. And that was the worst time in his life, being in jail. But it became the best time in his life because he learned all about his own mind and speaking of his word and the law and how it works, you know. So every now and then he'll call me or he'll send me a piece of jewelry, you know, or something to that effect. And
that's powerful. That's a launching pad. It was a launching pad.
Yeah.
And even in that, you instructed him basically to ask questions like, what does my life look like?
Right.
You know, and questions really can, in many ways, be, you know, this is the time with the Olympics are coming up. And I'm thinking about a springboard. Mm-hmm. You know, questions could be a springboard that you could do all kinds of crazy, you know, flips and twists with, or you could belly flop.
You could.
Now,
if you ask the wrong question.
Yeah. And so I'm just thinking back to when everything changed, when I was in the worst time, the worst moment of my life. Why is it, and I'm going to ask you this question, I'm going to circle back to it. Why is it in that moment that I finally asked a new question when things were as bad as possible? But it took things to get to that place for me. I was habitually asking and wishing. I was a human wishing well, just, you know, throwing pennies at myself. Like, you know, I wish that somebody would help me. I wish that I would be, you know, whatever the case might be. But after hearing from all these experts that I couldn't be well, that I would never walk normally again, that I would be in pain for the rest of my life. I was a kid still, I was 20 years old. Everything changed when I simply asked a different question. And it changed. I asked, what can I do to get healthy?
Right.
And my entire universe changed.
That's right. Absolutely. The universe will answer any question you ask. That's the nature of it. Most people ask disempowering questions. What's wrong? Who's to blame? Why me? What should I do about it? Why did this happen? So, you know, we live in a multidimensional universe, okay? So as long as you're asking that question, you're at the lower rung of the dimensions. There's a whole nother world, okay? And so when you begin to ask an empowering question, you're actually lifted out of that world. You're not in that world anymore. You're in another world.
Instantly.
I'm up here now. And up here, from the mountaintop, I have a different point of view than if I'm just in the valley. You know, I see things differently. I'm hearing wisdom and guidance and direction. Answers are flowing. And I'm in a different world. It's difficult to teach at time because this is where you start moving from metaphysics to mysticism. You're at a whole another level of seeing. It's a whole different world that exists. But most people are content, they think they are anyway, to live in this small world when this other world exists. But you have to ask the right question to get there. The password, who am I? You know, the password, who am I? You know, what do I represent? You know, what am I here to reveal? What gift do I have to give? You know, what does my life really mean? You got to ask a different level of questioning, you know.
This is making me inquire because this awareness is who you are now. Like you mentioned earlier, some people are a human filing cabinet, and then others, you're it.
Yeah.
You embody it. And with your practices, because it also is a practice, it's a continuous practice, I would love to know how your day is set up. Like, is this something that you start your day with, these practices? What does your morning routine look like for Michael Beckwith?
It has evolved over the years because with every moment of inspired wisdom or insight, there's greater integration, greater embodiment. So I can remember over the years, I would meditate for hours on meditation retreats, just live a life of meditation until as a moment comes where I'm not really out of that space. You know, I do my meditation in the morning, but I'm always in kind of a reflective awareness. I'm aware of what my mind is doing, okay? But what I do is I wake up and I will go into a moment of gratitude. I'll actually put a smile on my face, even if I don't feel like it, you know. And you probably know this already, but just when you smile, a ton of chemicals flow through your body, even if you're not feeling it, you know. So I'll smile. I'll be grateful that I'm grateful that I exist. I'm grateful that I'm alive. Not grateful for stuff yet, just that I'm alive. And then I surrender to life. It's like I yield to the potential that's within me. And then I ask for the strength to do whatever my assignment is for the day, whatever comes across my path. Okay. So that's when I wake up. Then I will sit and have some moments of meditation. Then I'll go work out. Now that particular sitting is not a long sitting. I'll go work out first, get some sweat on, Then when I come back home, it'll be a longer sitting. It's something about either doing yoga or lifting or something that prepares you to sit. So now I'm sitting, and that's a longer period of time. The minimum is 22 minutes. The maximum will be whatever my schedule allows me to do. So then throughout the course of the day, there'll be moments of sitting, the staff member, or praying, and then in the evening, have a moment of sitting. So it's integrated into my life. Now before, it was really, over the years, was really intense, Then after, it doesn't have to be that intense for me anymore, even though I love it. Mm-hmm. I did an intense meditation training a couple of months ago in Sedona. And it was 7 days of intense biofeedback, polygraph machines, hours and hours of feedback, and I do that. That's a reset. I do that every couple of years. I love it. It's intense, but you're changed when you come out of there. So I still love, I'm a solitary guy. I love my aloneness. I love people. But I think my base is I like being by myself. But I love people, So that practice, it varies. Sometimes I have, the magnets we talked about.
Yeah.
They're right by my bed. I do the magnet, I do little qigong moves, and that will be my meditation. So it just varies. I do breath work every day. I do breath work before I speak. But now that I'm talking to you, there are things that I do, I forget about them because they're just part of the deal. I'm not saying, I'm going to sit down and do breath work now. I just know, okay, I'm getting ready to speak. I'm getting ready to, I got so many minutes. I just go in, I meditate, and I start doing the breath of fire. Then I do the slow 8-4 count breath, and then I'll go up and speak. So it's all integrated into my life, but it's not like I'm doing a spiritual practice. It's just like a part of me.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And the magnets, those we talked about, I think it was Peter Ragnar.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, who put us onto that. Because I got actually, I don't know if I told you this, I got a magnetic mattress pad at one point.
I did too.
The dreams were crazy.
Yeah, I did too.
Crazy.
I slept on that. I used to sleep under a copper pyramid over my whole bed.
So
for years.
So you was on some.
That was years ago.
John Carter. You was showing up on Mars.
Actually, and, I've always been like going to the edge of whatever.
Yeah.
And then I remember having a dream that the pyramid broke. I took that as a sign that I didn't need to do that anymore.
Right.
So I don't even know where that pyramid is, but it was 100% copper, and the dreams were intense, and it was much easier to leave your body and go flying and things like that. And then that was over. Yeah.
I love that too. That's another thing about some of the great leaders and teachers is that willingness to experiment,
right?
The willingness to listen to that inner guidance system.
Yeah.
And, so we got the magnetic aspect, we've got the qigong, we've got the meditation. And when I was with you at your place, I was surprised by that because I was wondering about that. Like, do you exercise first and then do your meditation session? And then because of you, I flipped it, the funny thing is, it's not even that funny. Well, everything is funny, is I've enjoyed my meditation in a different way now.
Yeah.
By doing a little bit of, getting my heart rate up, getting my blood moving, and then doing my practice.
Right.
So because prior I was like, I'd get up, do some reading, do a meditation session, just kind of like a very
I still do that.
Slow vibe.
Yeah.
But then like you just mentioned, especially if it's a shorter thing.
Yeah.
But for a longer session, I found a little bit more juice by doing a little bit of exercise.
Yeah.
Prior.
People forget that yoga came into being to prepare one for meditation. You know, in the West, it becomes more of an exercise, physique kind of thing. But the advent of yoga in Egypt and in India is how you prepared yourself for meditation. You would do your asanas, build up your chi, be able to hold more energy, then you would sit. It wasn't, I'm going to sit and then do the yoga. It was the other way around. You do the yoga, then you would sit. So the same way, you do your exercise first, and then it's easier to sit. You're not as fidgety because you've expanded your vessel to hold more energy. You can sit for longer periods of time.
There's two things. So yoga helping to build up that potential for holding that wattage.
Yeah.
And the same thing with our nutrition.
Right.
So both of these practices integrated. I love that so much.
Yeah. Some people would say, nutritionists say that nutrition is king and exercise is queen. And then the exercise people say, no, exercise is king and nutrition is queen. But they're both. You got to have both.
Meditation is the kingdom.
In meditation. Whew.
So with everybody again, and I want to reiterate this, it's something that we talk about frequently, just the absolute infinite potential that every person has.
Yeah.
You know, we're so wonderful. And I think that sometimes we can lose track of that. I think a big part of that is our education system and the way that we kind of come up. We're kind of inundated with misinformation or miseducation about who we are and what we're capable of. What can folks do if they're wondering, you know, they hear wonderful people and all these incredible speakers and writers and successful people, and they're just like, I'm not that. What can people do to help to kind of uncover who they are, what their gift is?
First of all, there has to be a shift of perception. When they're looking up to somebody, anybody great, we can name a bunch of people, they all were, quote unquote, a nobody at some point. And nobody is special. I say people specialized. You know, it's just like you see somebody playing the piano and they're killing it. You know, they specialized in that. They took classes. They practiced. They put in hours so that we can look at it and say, ooh, he's special. No, he specialized in that. You know, and whatever walk of life, we can talk about Nelson Mandela. We can talk about the Holiness of Dalai Lama. We can talk about great athletes. We can talk about doctors. We can talk about influencers. They specialized until that became second nature. So I have to remind people that they have the same powers, but you have to put in the time. You see, the two greatest technologies are earnestness and sincerity. That if you're earnest, meaning you practice whether you feel like it or not, and you're sincere in your motivation, you're going to bear fruit, you know. But it's not going to it's not magical thinking. It's not like doing one affirmation and saying, poof, you know, my life has changed. I have to actually put in the time. So if people can catch, as you said, we are wonderful, but it has to be activated. You know, it has to be activated. Olympic athletes are just going to go out and run a 9-1. You know, they got to do the work. Yeah. You know, or you're going to pull a muscle and hurt yourself.
Right. Or all the muscles.
Or all of them. Yeah.
You know what? There's this term that we have, like somebody's a natural.
Yeah.
Like, look at them, they're a natural. They would never know if they didn't pick that thing up. Like, I was thinking about Serena Williams when you mentioned athletes we look at and we aspire to. She could have never picked up a tennis racket. She could have been a teacher. She could have been a judge.
Right.
You know, and so it's the investment. I think it's experimentation.
Yeah, her father had her out there all the time working, which she's doing to her daughter right now. You know, showing her the steps. You know, yeah, it's and now I will say, I mean, there have been prodigies, people born that they can play the piano, but I don't believe in different lifetimes. I believe it's just one life with different chapters. So in another chapter of their life, they learned that skill and didn't forget it when they came here. I mean, there's so much we can talk about that. You look at somebody like Beethoven, who was deaf. Deaf. Most people forget that this man was deaf and created full symphonies. You know, he was listening with the ear that's beyond the ear, not the physical. He never even heard a tune, but would write a full symphony. How does that happen? You know, There's so much more than meets the eye of who we are and our capabilities, you know.
And I think this will go back as
Oh,
well.
let me just say one other thing.
Sure,
You said something about education,
yeah.
which is actually miseducation. Because the system that it was set up for workers. It was set up by the aristocracy to have people be prepared to have jobs. It wasn't set up for like real learning and education. It was set up so they would have the people be able to do certain things proficiently in the job sector. So we don't have a really good educational system. We have a system that fits people into holes to plug up things in society. I would say, I used to tell kids years ago, before the internet and all that, I would say, I know a place you can learn anything you want, get all the information, all the knowledge. Say, where? I said, the library. You know, ooh, it's a very mystical place. Today, you can study anything.
Yeah.
You can study anything. Nothing prevents a person from studying anything you want and to become proficient in something.
Such a gift.
Yeah.
When things are as crazy as they are,
Yeah.
you also have opportunity like you've never seen.
Right.
You just
Right.
said it. Anything you can learn from the top people in the world in their respective space for free.
For free. Business, athletics.
Oh,
you know,
so
I mean, the phone that we have, when the first people went into outer space, they didn't even have that much technology. We have more technology in our smartphones than the first astronauts had. We have that in our hand.
Yeah.
We're unlimited.
Yeah. We can skyrocket our lives to a different stratosphere.
Totally.
You know? So within finding our gifts, and I think this also goes back to asking those questions as well. You know, what is my gift? You know, what in different challenges, for example, you know, what quality is wanting to emerge
Yes, yeah.
from me, you know, and like picking these little traits up. But what if, okay, so let's say that we are tapping in to our gift. We know the thing that we want. For example, you gave the story about the gentleman who was a jeweler.
Right.
Right. But what if we bump into the situation where we feel like we know what our thing is, what we're passionate about, what we're moving towards, but we feel like we missed an opportunity?
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak to that?
Well, first of all, there are infinite opportunities. You know, there used to be an old superstition that opportunity only knocks once, or something like that. You know what I mean? There it is. It's gone.
Right.
But that would be in a limited universe.
Yeah.
You know, opportunity is infinite. Possibilities are infinite. So if an opportunity has passed you by, you learned a lesson. You weren't ready. You weren't prepared. You didn't have your stuff together when that opportunity came. Now get it together, because it's going to keep coming. Opportunities are always here. And so people have to let go of the superstitious thought that opportunity only knocks once. It's knocking now for everyone. It's beating on our heart saying, let me in. I got possibilities to express through you. Let me in. Let's do this. Come on now. Because, you know, the graveyard carries so many unfulfilled dreams. People who are afraid of success, afraid of failure, afraid of looking silly by doing something that never been done before, you know. So just died with him.
Opportunity only knocks once. That
Who said that?
the person controlling opportunities.
Right.
Trying to control.
You blew it.
You know, that's so interesting. You know, I remember the statement also, where there's a will, there's a way. That makes me think of that too. And that's even limited, because where there's a will, there's infinite ways.
Yeah.
You know, I think we tend to get caught up in the paradigm that we exist in, that we are currently in, that this is the way. This is the only way to this solution. And we miss out on all the dynamic. And the thing is, this is the thing about humans as well, that until we're pressed with a situation that causes us, that triggers us,
Right.
to think more creatively, to innovate, to become more, we just don't do it. We don't know that that's a thing.
Right. And there comes a day where your growth is your most important thing. You know, I like to say, where there's willingness, there's a way. And when there's willfulness, there's a wall. So if you're willing, ways will show up. But if you become willful, This is the only, then you'll create a vibrational wall. You work against yourself. So human beings, I invite people to become willing. Even you don't have to know how to do it. Just become willing. This guy didn't know how to start a business. He didn't know anybody in Hawaii. He didn't think he was undercapitalized, but he became willing. And then angel investors, different things came up that he didn't even know existed, that allowed him to move forward. He became willing. Yeah.
And it's happening all the time,
right?
As well. I know that all of us, we love to hear those stories, those success stories. And there's so many, those are the people that we think of and we see. Yeah. I'm thinking about my friend Jesse Isler, who's been on the show, and he's married to the founder of Spanx.
Oh, well, we know how to, my cousin's a good friend of her.
Yeah. And so she's, incredible billion-dollar company, billion-dollar brand. And if you know her beyond humble beginnings, basically in a room, she's got a roommate, the whole thing, just like trying to put stuff together herself, cutting things up, cutting the legs out of, pantyhose and all these things, essentially broke and growing that to $1 billion brand. But we see those things happen and we think that that's for that person. Right. It's those people over there. How do we, I think, first of all, and I just talking with you, this is the thing about talking with you is that I already know the answer.
Yeah,
when I say it out, but we identify with that because it is in us.
Yes.
So how can we cultivate that even more?
Yeah. Association with individuals that are going to hang in that kind of conversation. We have to not associate with people who live in the field of impossibility, put you down if you're trying to go forward, telling you you're off base if you're trying to do something that's out of bounds. If you associate with individuals, as the old statement goes, it's better to be by yourself than to be with bad company. So if you associate with individuals that are talking possibility, more possibility is going to flow through you. Now, these kind of stories are very inspirational, particularly in light of the fact that most of the things that we're bombarded with via the media are all the negative things that happen, the lowest common denominator of the human experience. So you'll get all of this whole things about all the negative things that are happening on the planet, but they never balance it with, look at all of these beautiful things that are happening. Look at all these remissions. Look at all these inventions. Look at all this art that's being produced. You don't get that.
Look at all these people who are safe.
Right. Safe. Ooh, they didn't die tonight. The house didn't blow up. No. And so we have to, that's called malicious hypnotism. That our media is basically hypnotizing people through seduction, provocation, and intimidation into a small point of view. And you have to not only withstand that, you gotta opt out. Just like you get credit cards or you get programs and say you can opt out anytime. People have to wake up every single day and opt out of that paradigm. I'm opting out of the paradigm of fear. I'm opting out of the paradigm of lack and limitation.
Take me off the list.
Take me off the list. I don't want it. I'm not subscribing to that anymore. I'm subscribing to something else. And feed yourself with that possibility until it becomes so ingrained in your being that that's where you're living. And then you actually repulse the negative. You become impervious to it. You see, that's why I'm saying it's a comedy, because I'll just watch people just like, God, everybody's so scared of everything. What are you doing? What are you eating? What are you taking in? Stop it. Take care of your mind.
What if? And I never even thought of this before, but I was talking about Sarah Blakely, Jesse's wife, who founded Spanx. What if that was the dominant thing that we did see on the news? These wonderful stories and all the opportunity and creation. That's possible. Totally. Me having that thought is a creation.
Right.
And that could be even somebody listening right now. And a lot of amazing people who work in the news listen to the show.
Right.
And shout out to everybody, the people out there doing the
God
good
bless
work,
you.
good reporting, who right now it's a challenge for them as well to get things published, to get their stories run. If it's not fitting into that narrative of fear.
Right.
And not to say that there's not things to be conscientious about or cautious about,
Sure.
but it's a formula, and it is dedicated to keeping us in a trance
Right.
with fear. And we've done, we've talked about this quite a bit on the show, and just even some of the science behind it. But I want to ask you about this. This is one of the most important things that I want to have you on for, is right now. And you set something up really well earlier, mentioning when it's a big situation, a whole society, for example, that goes through something what we consider to be bad, and the big change that can come from it. We're still in the grips of something really tremendously negative, in a sense, very challenging. A lot of people losing their lives, a lot of businesses lost, a lot of people experiencing more challenges to mental health than ever before, relationships crumbling, people just living in fear, losing their homes. The list goes on. And this is just the beginning stages. We haven't even seen the full ramification rollout of this thing. What could this mean for us? I know you because of who you are and the work that you've done, you can see from a different perspective what it's all about. Can you give us some insight? And so that, because you helped me with this too, because I was really having some challenges in the beginning of this, because I thought we were better than this. I thought that this would be an opportunity, which it is.
It is.
But to focus on what's real, to focus on health, to focus on love and support.
All of that.
So please, if you got any insight.
Well, I like this. What I see is that we're in the middle of a great awakening, and you're seeing the crumbling of the old paradigm, and you're seeing the emergence of what's happening new, both in the same space and the same time. Newtonian physics, that can't exist. You can't have two objects in the same space, same time. But in quantum reality, you can have everything in the same space at the same time, but they're vibrating at different levels. So you have the old paradigm, fear, worry, lack, limitation, scarcity, not enough jobs, not enough this, not enough that. That's not real. That's made up, And so what's happening is a crumbling of the old, where people are going to be forced to really get a sense of who they are, and stop leaning on external things like governments and politicians and things of that particular nature. I mean, I'm always shocked that people actually believe these guys. You know what I mean? It's like, you believe the government? Who does that? You know what I mean?
Just a little sidebar. We're here in LA right now. We're here in California. And you shared this with me before, like prior to a lot of this stuff coming forward, that, they could tell a lie. You could literally see them do it right in your face, and you know that it's not true. And this happened with our governor here, when there's lockdowns happening, social distancing, mask. He's literally at a restaurant with a group of people, not social distancing, not wearing a mask, and then making it a mandate that people do these things, to the degree that people were having legal issues, people were having issues with, stress and aggression and violence and all these different things, but he's not subscribing to it himself, So you could see these things taking place right in front of you, and then the craziest part is our friends and family, close associates, people who you might think are able to see this stuff taking place, are just still listening to them, like, oh yeah, he made a mistake, or whatever the case. And that's true, people can make a mistake,
right?
But I'm shocked at the level of, I thought we were past this, like we knew that the news was doing this kind of stuff, that
people outsource their authority. I tell people, the only authority you have is the authority of your own conviction. That's the authority. You can't outsource your authority to someone out there. Those people work for you. You don't work for them. They work for you. And so your attention has to be on what kind of life you want to live and how that can assist you to live that life. Now, if you don't have a vision, then they're going to tell you what your vision is. If you don't have your own possibility for your own life, then you're going to listen to these people, and they're going to run your life, you see. So the idea is that we're in a great awakening. Everything is shifting. The world of phenomena is moving really fast, and there's an emergence taking place. There's people becoming more sovereign, people taking their authority back, people that are saying hell no. I mean, it's very similar to the vibration of during the Vietnam War, when people woke up and said, whoa, wait a minute, we're going to go kill these people we don't know? Why? Why are we doing this? And nobody could give an answer. You know what I mean? So it's a stream of consciousness that's happening. And again, you don't see it because it's not on the news. But there's many people that are coming to an understanding that their own authority is here. It's their connection to the universe, not connection to a party, Republican, Democrat, Independent. You know, it's connected to something else. And you'll also notice these days that people that used to be diametrically opposed to each other are now sharing some of the same, they're in agreement with some of the same things. It used to be everything was black or white, Republican, Democrat. Now it's like, that guy over there, I agree with what he's saying. You know, so there's a
for a growing number of people that's happening. Yes.
Yes. So there's a whole breaking down of what used to be black and white, this and that, to there's something happening. Yeah. You know, and I think that's a precursor to something breaking down, to something else emerging. We have our inner authority connected to the presence. You know, we begin to have a vision of the kind of world we want to live in. We start to walk in that direction. Again, the reporters are reporting from the old paradigm. We're seeking to report from something new that's emerging. That means you have to see the invisible in order to do the impossible. You know, every great thing that's ever happened in life, it was invisible. Somebody saw it. I remember when people used to say apartheid was going to be here forever. That was the thing. It's no way that these people are going to give up control and power. But it was, somebody saw it. And then one day, that was the new paradigm. Yeah. Berlin Wall came down. You know, that was never going to come down. So there are a lot of things we're dealing with now. The highest frequency always wins. That's a law. The highest frequency is more powerful than the lower frequency. A thought that emerges from a field of fear, worry, control, domination, manipulation has less power than a thought that's emerging from a field of love. So love is always going to win. Now, a dictator may be on the throne for a while, but he can't stay there. It's impossible. The universe is progressive. Yeah.
We needed to hear this. Yeah. You know, I was just sitting with my son Braden the other day, and I turned on the television, but then I realized I needed to send an email, and it might have even been to your team or something. I don't know, but I remember I had to jump on an email real quick, and the TV automatically turns on this news channel, Spectrum News. It's just because of the cable that we have, I guess. Right. And so it's just playing in the background because we were about to watch something together, and it was about 10 minutes that I was doing this email, and maybe 9 minutes into it, I was just wrapping up, and my son, Braden, he's 9 years old. He was like, "Dad, why is there so much bad news on the news?" And he had been like, it was just kind of, he's playing with his Legos, but he was just still can pick up what was being said. And it's just continuous feed of all the bad things. And we don't watch the news. Like, this kid has no association or experience with it. And he just says this. I'm just like, that's the brilliance of our children.
He saw the contrast.
And so he says this to me, and I was like, you know what, bud? It's because, and similar to what you just said, you know, they're reporting from, you know, an old paradigm, an old reality, that all the things that are going on are quote bad things. And they're not talking about all the good that's going on at the same time. And all the people that are doing well, that are getting healthy, that are safe, that are loving each other, that are taking care of each other. And I shared that this other thing, those types of things those are not popularized. They're not as interesting for folks right now, rather than this fear and all these, you know, negative things. And here's the crazy part. And I didn't share this. I might've mentioned this on the show before, but just the day before, we were walking with his best friend next door, and their parents, you know, the news, it runs. It's running on the TV. We were just walking. We're going for a walk. It's me, my son Braden, and his best friend. And his best friend was like, "So did you guys hear the news today?" And he was talking about, you know, some people who were murdered. And I'm just like, there's two different realities. It's not to say, and this is for me, it's just not to say that this bad thing didn't happen. Right. But that's 90% of what he's getting fed when that news channel is running 24/7, you know, or even for a couple of hours. And that's what I love about your work as well, is that we don't have to ignore. We're not about ignoring what's going on in the world. We just don't have to be controlled by it.
Yeah, it's limited. you know, what happens is then you become addicted and interested in that, and you can't even see all the good that's happening around on the planet. And so there's the good news. They used to call it the gospel. That's the good news.
And it exists in a big way.
I was in Costa Rica recently, and I was with some folks, and some conversations came up. And they knew nothing about it because they don't watch any of the news. You know, they had no relationship to COVID. They had no relationship to so many things that people were interested in. They said, no, we're healthy, you know. We just go in the town and get our stuff, and, you know, we see people walking around being afraid of this and that. You know, I said, you guys healthy? Oh, yeah, we're healthy. Why would we be sick? We're not, you know, we're not interested in sickness, so we're not going to get sick, you know. But it was just, they're living in my reality, you know.
Right.
And it was just fun just to see that.
Yeah. And you would think, you know, with the marketing campaign behind what's taking place, and, you know, we've talked about this on the show multiple times, but one of the craziest things is these news networks, they're funded largely, billions of dollars invested by pharmaceutical companies, for example, and there's kind of vested interests.
Right.
And there's no nuance, there's no context, it's just, this is your option. You know, you're going to die, or you're going to take a drug. Right. And nothing else really exists. Right. And anything, if, you know, even if somebody doesn't take the bait, you know, any experts that they have on, you have to take the bait. You're not going to be featured on the network. No, you know. And the crazy thing is, I've done the news shows. Right. You know, I've been on the major news, and it's such a small. And I this past, you know, when Eat Smarter came out, I made a conscious decision that I'm not doing that stuff unless it's just so magnificent. Right. Because people are not even coming there for that. You know, they're coming there to find out how bad it is, plus the weather and sports. And then here's my little 3-minute segment, you know, telling you to eat some avocados or whatever, you know. It's just like, I think my time could be better served doing something else, but I'm not against hitting the airwaves like that. You know, we still planting seeds, but most people are tuning in for something else, you know, and we want to come offline a little bit more and consciously tap ourselves into positive media, you know, enlightened media. And you've got an event coming up here, a big celebration coming up for people to have that experience, to connect with something, to remind us of how powerful we are, to provide tools and insights from a plethora of absolute world changers. Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about this summit?
Absolutely. The summit's a summit, and the summit's theme is saying yes to you. And so, you know, I have Queen Afua, Danielle Laporte, Don Miguel Ruiz, Neil Donald Walsh. They're going to present, and then we're going to be in dialogue, like you and I are in dialogue right now. It's going to be peppered with other wonderful people bringing yogic practices and prayer practices. It's going to be Shawn is going to do some opening for us. Koya Webb is going to do some things for us.
Koya's been on the show.
Yeah. She's, you know,
incredible,
emerged out of Agape. I'm so proud of her. Yeah. Sadhguru is going to give a word. Bob Proctor is going to give a word.
Bob Proctor, the legend.
Yeah, and he's 80-something years old still.
Out here on his motorcycle, just
killing it, boy. You know, both him and Sadhguru both ride motorcycles.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow. Yeah. Bob too?
Yeah. Oh. I mean, no, I'm talking. Yeah, Bob doesn't do it anymore.
Okay.
But Sadhguru does.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
But so it's a say yes to you, and it's free. This particular offering on July 21st is at no cost. You know, there are some other iterations that you may want to pay for down the line, but it's just like in honor of the birthday. And it's
your birthday,
my birthday,
your birthday,
my appearance day, right?
July 21st.
July 21st.
Shout out.
That's free, and it's a fundraiser. There'll be ways that people can give if they feel compelled to do that. But the whole idea is, how do you say yes to you?
Yeah.
You know, and you have to know who you are. You have to actually give permission, and most people are still looking for external validation and somebody to give them permission. Please give me permission to be great. Give me permission to have my needs met. No. You have to say yes to you. And so we're going to go into the core of that to up-level people's thinking about saying yes to who they are and the ramifications of all of that. Yeah, so tune in and get a tune-up.
Yes, I love it. A mental and physical, emotional tune-up.
Absolutely.
And so you already mentioned some of the folks that are going to be speaking and sharing.
And you're
event.
there too.
Of course.
Because we're taking, this is Summit Part 2,
Yeah.
but we're combining it with Summit Part 1 that
One,
you were
yeah,
involved in.
Yes, yes. Such an honor, such an honor. But so now we've got Danielle Laporte, we've got Don Miguel Ruiz
Yes.
from the Four Agreements. This
Yes.
is more legendary.
Yeah.
Sadhguru, Bob Proctor. You've got Sterling K. Brown.
Sterling's going to interview me, and I'm going to interview him.
Incredible.
It's kind of a fun thing we're going to do. I don't know what questions he's going to ask me about whatever,
So most folks know about him from the television show. I know about him from Black Panther.
Yeah.
That's where I first
Yeah, he
became
was in
aware
Black
of him.
Panther and This Is Us.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I know he's a great member of Agape, but once I realized the depth of his acting, then I started seeing him in all these movies over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And he popped with This Is Us when he got the first black to get an Emmy. Then he got another one. But he's been, what does it take, 30 years to become an overnight success?
Right.
He's been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
And his wife, Ryan, they're killing it. Yeah.
You got such an incredible community at Agape. Just, it's not an accident. I mean, everybody from, Stevie Wonder to, Russell Brand to, Sterling K. Brown.
Russell Brand, he just texted me last night. He's going to be that week. I'm doing an Instagram with interview with Russell Brand, with Dr. Be Serious, with Karen Ward, and with Lauren London. Wow. Different one every day, just speaking to the same thing. Of saying yes to you.
I love this. So everybody, again, this is a free event. Right now, take action. Go to themodelhealthshow.com/now summit. All right, together. NOWSUMMIT. Themodelhealthshow.com/now summit for special access to this once in a lifetime experience and event to celebrate the one and only Michael Beckwith. Truly, this is such a gift. For folks that are watching on YouTube, that we're here at our new studio, and to have you here for the first episode. And I told you about different things going on in the world to line this up for you to be the first guest. I don't feel that it's an accident at all. And it's such a incredible gift for me. And you're an incredible gift for all of us. We're grateful to have you on the planet right now.
It is my joy. I've said yes to me. You said yes to you. And here we are.
Hey, if you like this video, make sure to check out this video right here to optimize your mindset.
Most people suffer from an attention deficit disorder and an intention deficit disorder. So their mind is all over the place. Their mind has been hijacked by worry, fear, anxiety,